Yeah, we're live.
We're live. Okay, now let me put that over on BFA.
Hi Dana, how's Mantle going?
I think it's doing pretty good. Of course, I haven't gotten any reports yet, but that one day at least, and I can't find my way back to that page where it said I was number one in the top new releases. So
Okay.
that was pretty exciting.
Yeah, it doesn't. It changes all the time. I think they update it like every hour or something. So
they're giving everyone a chance to be on top for 2 seconds.
Somebody told me I was on there like about a month ago, but it took me ages to find it. I couldn't find the pages. It was really difficult to get to.
Well,
do you think it's like right at the
Carol Ashby each time sent me a screenshot, and I thought that was see it. So tell Carol you want her to send you a screenshot when you're on number one. Or even in the top 100, because really that's pretty cool, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. I'm glad it's going well.
All right. Also, I think if you go on your Amazon page, and you scroll down to like the so it's like the publisher info, and then like how many pages, it's a list. And so if you do that, then you can see if you make it into those top 100, your 3 categories are listed there, and you can kind of scope it out from there.
Good. Okay.
All right. I think we are good. And pin the feature. No, we're good. We're good.
Awesome.
We're all on here. Hooray. Demi's already here. Sorry. You couldn't find us because we couldn't find ourselves, Demi.
We couldn't find ourselves. Oh, that's funny.
We couldn't find ourselves. This is the story of our life. We need help. We need Jesus. So glad you are here, Demi. Welcome to Biblical Fiction Aficionados. We are happy to have with us today Natasha Woodcraft, who is the author of a fabulous book called The Wanderer's Legacy. And if you're tuning in live, thank you so much. Why don't you drop a note where you are coming in from? And so we're really excited about this. Thank you for being flexible with the new time. And we just wanted to make sure that Natasha didn't turn into a pumpkin in the UK when we do our normal time. So we appreciate your flexibility on that. Let's see here. We've got a fun game coming up. We've got a question and answer. We've got a read aloud. It's always a great time here when we do our interview lives. So before we get into that, Dana, what is going on in your writer world?
Well, I had this weird launch whereby my paperback was, I shouldn't say weird because actually this makes a lot of sense. My paperback was launched first on April 20th. And if you have already got a copy and are reading, thank you very much. And if you do have a copy, you probably don't have a copy that looks like this with this thing here that says not for resale. That's my proof, and I will not get mine until May 5th. And then on May 5th, the ebooks go live. Right now, they're at a special pre-order price of $3.99, and then they are going to go up in price after that sometime. I don't know when. So,
yeah, that's interesting. I would think like the ebook would be easier to get out first. So it's really kind of cool to have the paperback out first.
Yeah, it gives them a chance to sell because of course, they're quite a bit more expensive than the ebooks, and they could not put them on. My publisher says it's just too expensive. We can't put your paper on a pre-order price. It's just what it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We've sold some, so good.
Demi says, love Natasha's read alouds. Wish I could speak like you.
Yeah.
There's some benefits to being British.
Apparently Apparently, we're just going to let Natasha do the whole interview today.
Yeah, that'd be great.
No, I'm looking forward to speaking to you guys and hearing your voices.
Does that make you self-conscious when we're like, wow, she's so British?
Okay. I want to do a post. And where do I put the post? I can't find it.
So you can go into post comment up at the far right. There's a bar, comments, banners, media assets, style, private chat. If you go into comments, then you should be able to comment there.
I can't see it. I wonder. I'm looking at the bottom now because sometimes it's it. And
oh yeah, it rehomes itself.
Yeah. Well,
you found a private chat earlier.
I know.
So it's like just up above the private chat.
Okay.
Oh, hey, that's.
Oh.
Did you do that, Dana?
Turn it blue. I think so. Okay. Hello. No. That won't.
I don't seem to.
It just says comments. It doesn't say. It won't let me talk. It says shut up.
Okay, so you're in the right area, but down at the bottom of that scrolly thing, there's a thing that says post a comment. You don't have that one?
The squirrely thing.
Scrolly. Sorry, scrolly.
Private chat. I see private chat.
Yeah, if you can private chat, I can put it over from private chat. We'll get this one of these times. One of these times. That's funny. But you were able to push the comment onto the screen, so that's good.
That's good. I can see comments, but I can't. So I think, yeah.
Lisa is here. Hello from Cincinnati. Hello, Lisa. So glad you could join us today. Oh, there's Dana's in the private chat. Here we go.
Oh, what time is it? It's 9:15 in the UK PM. So if I'd have done it at 4, it would have been tomorrow. Is that right? Yeah. It would have been tomorrow. So the ladies kindly pushed it back, but yeah, that means it's maybe an awkward time for some people, but hopefully there's other people in their lunch hour that can join.
It's a lot of pressure, yes. All of the above, getting the timing right, getting the tech right. We're so thankful for your grace, all of you. And then there's Dana's. Hello from Fingered Dana. In Arizona. Awesome. So a little bit of housekeeping rules. We will have these comments open through the weekends, and make sure you're getting on here. The more you interact, the more there will be an opportunity for you to win a copy of the Wanderer's Legacy. And yeah, so interact. The more you interact, it'll be good. And then we will also do a random draw at the end for the Wanderer's Legacy. And we're working out logistics. So it seems like we might be able to just send you a paperback if that's what you're interested, even though Natasha is from the UK, as long as you can do, if you can receive Amazon. So, but if not, then we will figure out a way to get a digital copy. So be sure that you're doing that. We are, yeah, if you're not, oh yes, free books. So we're excited about this. This is going to be a fun time. We always love sharing great biblical fiction and championing for God's word in this way. So we're excited you're here with us. If you're watching the replay, go ahead and put your comments in, because again, it will be entered in for the giveaway. So good. Do you want to do Natasha's bio, Dana?
No. Natasha is a lovely girl who lives in Australia or New Zealand. Which is it, Natasha?
It's England.
England. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do you have it written? Do you have the?
I don't have it. I'm so sorry. Like I said, my computer has been just so slow and giving me all kinds of problems. So no.
No, you said something was wrong, and I'm sorry, I didn't pay attention to what you said.
Almost everything is wrong. Almost everything.
Oh, did you get the questions, or?
I put the questions in the private chat just now.
Oh, okay.
Just the questions for the game.
Gotcha.
If you want to put the other questions in the private chat, I'll glance at them.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that. Yeah, we will. You said that it was sketchy for you, and I do apologize. I didn't connect all of those dots.
Really sketchy. Yeah, I'm really sorry. I can't sign into a lot of my things. So anyway.
Oh, Demi's okay. I like this. Let's just ask the audience what we know about Natasha. She has a flock of goats.
I do. A small flock of goats.
I love it. Yeah, so Natasha Woodcraft lives in a slightly crumbling old farmhouse in Lincolnshire, UK, with her husband, 4 sons, and a small menagerie of animals, including goats. Despite her intentions about being a nonfiction writer, the first idea God gave her was for a series of biblical fiction novels. She believed passionately that stories have the power to communicate deep truth and transform lives. Natasha, we're glad you joined us. Thank you for being flexible about the time and all that.
Thank you for being flexible, because I might have been asleep otherwise, and that wouldn't have been so fun.
We do what we can. We do what we can.
Okay. It is interesting to work with so many authors in so many different time zones, and you're probably the farthest. And
it was 8 hours different, so it does make it a bit challenging. But it's good. We did it, so here we are.
Yeah.
So I'm in England. I have my flock of goats, and I have quail and chickens, a dog, cats, some fish. Do I have anything else? 4 children.
You weren't sure about the fish.
Yeah, some fish. I'm not sure whether the fish are still alive. That's why I was.
She counts her children as
the children are just in the nursery. Yeah.
What are your kids' names?
Oh, Elijah.
Oh.
Yeah, so my eldest is Elijah, and then the second one is Micah, the third one is Malachi, and the fourth one, we'd gotten to the end of the prophets, so we got stuck, so we went back, and he's actually Boaz.
So you have 4 boys? Oh, goodness gracious. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's really good, actually, and I'm glad that I wanted a girl at the end, but I'm kind of glad I didn't have a girl at the end, because I think it would have messed with the dynamics and made everything really complicated.
Well, you could probably have about 6 more. 10 is, biblical, I think.
Don't encourage my husband. He would have carried on, and I was like, no, I'm done.
Well, you'll be glad though if you get 6 more, because then by the time you retire, somebody will still be there.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. All right, think it over.
Have you seen 7 Brides for 7 Brothers? It has 7 boys, and then they're alphabetical by biblical names. Adam, Benjamin, Caleb, Dan.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
Ephraim, Frank, and Gideon.
Oh. Yeah, we just went chronological. But then, as I say, we were kind of like hoping for a girl at the end, and we had all these girls' names lined up, and then we had another boy, and I was like, what do we do now? The only option was John, really, because he was the only other prophet after Malachi. But we decided
Zechariah.
I suppose, yeah.
Demi wants to know which animals can come inside.
Oh, not goat. Oh, well, the goat did one of the baby goats did once when she was poorly, but normally not the goats. I had to give her a bath and cuddle her for a while and look after her. But dog and cats,
Normal house animals.
Really, yeah.
Lisa says, my kids would love your house. My 10-year-old just heard this and his eyes popped up. You're gonna have some visitors here, apparently. I love their name. Go for the 10. You got this. You got this.
I know that Lisa has like 100 children, so she's she's way better than me. She can cope with more than I can.
I love
How many
it.
do you have, Lisa? It's not 100, but you have 6, don't you? Do you have 6? I think
so. Dana, I put the questions in the private chat. Can you see them? They're kind of all shoved together.
Okay.
But are you able to access those?
Yes.
Okay. All right. We're in business, guys. We got this. All right. Thank you all for your patience very much. 6 and number 7 on the way. Congratulations. See, you got to keep up with Lisa. Oh, goodness.
we'd end
All
up
right.
with,
So, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, we'd end up with a haggy eye or something, wouldn't we?
Yeah. I mean, there's some pretty unique ones. So you could go with Hexa and
if you had a girl, you could name her Axa. That's the girl that married Othniel. She was Caleb's youngest, a daughter.
There you go.
Yeah. But, I think she would get teased. Axa.
Yeah, but we'll see. Like, we're not sure if Boaz will, because it's so unusual. I don't know anyone else who's called their kid Boaz, but I don't know if in the States
it is unusual, but I do know somebody with that name. Yeah, he teaches a Bible study class.
But so far, he's been fine, but he's still in primary school, so we'll see when he goes up the ranks.
Yeah.
Bless him.
Okay, so Naomi, do I get to do the next question that starts with TWL Book 3?
Yeah, if you got it, then
I got it. Yours. Okay. So, what does all that stand for? The Wandering Legend.
Legacy. Very good.
Correct me. I know that's not it. Tell us what it is. The Wanderer series, Book 3 in the Wanderer series.
Adah, the Wanderer's Legacy. Here, let me put that
okay, in. Wanderer. Adah lives trapped between the life she longed for and the life she chose. She's failed to produce an heir, unlike Natasha, for her once devoted husband. As Lamech becomes increasingly unpredictable and domineering, Adah seeks refuge in legends about the mysterious wanderer. Then Lamech takes another wife. Adah flees to her family home where freedom causes hope to rise once more, but her body hides a secret that will propel her back into danger. Can a legend come to her rescue? Or does someone else hold the power to help her dwell in safety? The Wanderer's Legacy explores the tale of Lamech and his 2 wives from Genesis 4. Now, Natasha, why did you decide to write biblical fiction?
Well, it was a bit of a surprise to me. So I didn't even realize biblical fiction existed for a while. This is probably the wrong place to say that, but it shows that there's hope for everybody. So because I'm over in the UK and we don't have many bookstores, we don't have many ways of accessing, and I didn't have a Kindle at the time, so I didn't really know anything about biblical fiction. And then it was during the COVID lockdown that I got a Kindle so that I could read, because I couldn't go to a library. And so I started reading, and I literally just like Googled Christian novels and eventually got onto some biblical fiction. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And so I'd already sort of felt this kind of prompting in my spirit that I wanted to be able to I just felt like maybe I should be writing something like this. And then when I came across biblical fiction, I was like, oh, this is exciting. So yeah, I thought that I was going to write nonfiction. I think you said that earlier. So I have a theology degree, and I've always been interested in theology and philosophy and communicating those kinds of truths. But I didn't realize that I was going to do it through story. So that was the bit that was a surprise. But when I discovered having little ones at home, it can be really hard to engage, like with nonfiction. Sometimes I'd be, trying to read and I'd just fall asleep because I was so tired because I hadn't had any sleep for like a week. And I found that very difficult. But if I could read stories, then I would stay awake because stories are exciting and they keep you turning the pages. And so, yeah, God just started kind of speaking to me about maybe those same truths that I'd wanted to communicate. I could do that through story. So I started praying basically, and all through that kind of first COVID lockdown time, I was praying, God, do you have, if you want me to do this, show me what you want me to do, and just help me to learn, because I've never done this before. And nothing happened at first, and then one morning, which was in January 20, hang on, was the second one, was that 21? I want to say 2020, but I think it must have been 21. Yeah, I just woke up with the idea about Cain, and that was just like, I had to write it down. It was like a compulsion to write it down. And so I started writing, and that was it really. So it was a bit of a surprise.
So when did you publish your first one? You said you started in January, and then how long? Because that's a big honking book. How long did it take you to get through and ready to publish? And
so the first two stories I wrote together, I thought they were going to be one book until it came to publication, and then they were separate. Yeah, but the Wanderer's Legacy is actually longer than the first two put together.
Is it really?
That's the crazy thing. It is, yeah. If you put them side by side. But yeah, so because it was lockdown, there wasn't like that much to do. So I was homeschooling the kids, but I had like mornings and evenings free, and there was nothing on. You couldn't go out. You couldn't do. So I was writing a lot. So I wrote the whole thing in 6 months, and then spent a year. And so I know, she's still
She's amazing. Yeah.
Lisa still read it in 2 days. Lisa, did you neglect your entire household chores?
It's about 550 pages, I think. It was fairly decent. Yeah, so I wrote in about 6 months, but then I spent about a year, obviously, like editing, submitting to publishers, and going backwards and forwards and that kind of thing. So yeah, so it came out 18 months after I wrote it.
Very cool. So you're also a songwriter, and if any of the readers have followed you on socials, and they've seen your clips and stuff of songs, how did that flow with your novel writing? Like, that's so impressive to me. Like, you're not just a fiction writer, you're also making beautiful songs at this. How does that work when you're writing, and how does that flow?
Thank you. Yeah, so songs, I wrote songs way before I wrote books, and initially they were just a conversation with God. So if I'm particularly coming out of like things I was struggling with, it would just, my songs were a prayer to God about how do we get through this, yeah, so I just started doing that, and then when I was writing The Wanderer initially, the first one of my characters just became a songwriter, because I just feel like singing is ingrained in us. There's not many people I know that don't sing, even if they struggle to sing, they still sing.
You have a beautiful voice though too. That's what's so nice. I remember hearing you sing your song one time, and I thought, oh, that's just really beautiful. I could fall to sleep to that because it was so soothing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So I've always sung. I've just sung forever, and yeah. So one of the characters was just started writing songs, and she just appeared and started writing songs, and it wasn't really on purpose. The songs just started getting woven into the books. And so all that happens is I'll just be in the middle of a scene, and then this song will just pop into my head, and I'll start writing it. So, and then there it is. And the songs are very, very lightly edited, like nowhere near the level of the prose, because they come to me in their own rhythm already, and they have a tune and they have a rhythm and they have a rhyme already. So yeah, it just kind of happens. It's the way that I chat with God. And so yeah. And then in Wanderer's Legacy, there's not as many songs, but there's still 4, I think. And I was thinking, like, culturally, everyone sings, and what would have happened as society was developing. So right. The Wanderer's Legacy is like 750 years after the other ones, and so they'd kind of built cities, and they'd already started going to the tavern and drinking and things, and you often get those kind of songs that come out of their cultural songs. And then I thought, well, there would be cultural love songs, there would be cultural campfire songs. And so as I was writing the scenes, those kind of things just came in, and it's a way of exploring the way that society would have been, because society, I just feel like it's never been without songs, so you include those.
Well, it sort of sounds like you must be a pantser, although I kind of think with the book so long, you must have some sort of list making or something going on. What is your writing process?
I know the beginning and the end. I don't know anything in between.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. So I kind of sit down, and I normally have a sort of an idea. So characterization is most important to me. Like, the characters are completely real, and they are all completely in my head. I know you guys find this, but they are talking to me all the time. It's very irritating. And so I know what the character's struggle is, and I know where the character needs to end up, and then the plot happens to kind of affect that.
That's the thread through all that. Yeah.
And then obviously when you're doing biblical fiction, kind of everyone knows the ending anyway.
Yeah.
It's a bit hard to not know.
Well, and I thought I'm glad you mentioned the society developing like 750 years later, like, because that brought back the memory of like how easy it would be to stray, and how important it is to have godly counsel in the public world and in your private world, because otherwise, I mean, yeah, sure, it was 750 years, but it's just one generation removed from having a close relationship with God, and then suddenly it's like there's no accounting for God and his mercy. So that was really hard to read in some, but it was also convicting on how desperate we can be without God's presence in our life.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I was aware that, between the beginning of Genesis 4 and the end of Genesis 4, you've got, a good few hundred years. I was guessing a little bit with 750, because that particular genealogy doesn't have any dates in it. Right. But yeah, I kind of based it off of Noah's genealogy a little bit later on, and went backwards and tried to piece it together. But we're not that far away from the flood. We're maybe halfway towards the flood. So it's, it happened quickly, didn't it? The spiral happened quickly to get to the point where God looked at the world and said everything is evil all of the time. And that's so tragic and upsetting. And so I wanted to write into that, asking where was God? Because right at the end of Genesis 4 as well, there's a little line that says, and people began to call on the name of the Lord.
Right.
At that time, people began to call on the name of the Lord. And I was like, wow, where's that little line come from? It doesn't give us any more detail than that. So what does that mean? And so I just thought God was there. And the writer of Genesis gives us that little clue. People were calling on the name of the Lord. And yet within a few generations, we were at the flood. So I was asking the question of society was spiraling out of control.
And if they're just now calling on the name of the Lord, then obviously they had to be spiraled, because
yeah,
they wouldn't make that note if it was a constant thing too.
Exactly. So that was the whole thought experiment of doing it spiraling, but also there's little bits of hope, you know, little faithful people scattered throughout. And we see that through the whole of biblical history, don't we? That there's always a remnant. There's always people that God's gonna pull out. There's always hope. There's always little bits of light in the darkness. So that's really what my passion is, to communicate with this.
The hope. Yeah, I mean, Christian fiction is one of the few places you're going to see that. When you read even literary fiction or anything else, it's so much darker than it was when I was, 20 years, 30 years ago, reading these different things that were not Christian fiction. And I remembered thinking, my mom said, maybe you should try writing Christian fiction. And I said, it's just too sappy, it doesn't have any meat in it, and back then I started to realize what it was like. And then I read something by Colleen Coble, and it was very good. And it was, what's her genre? I'm trying to think.
Was she romantic suspense?
Yeah, romantic suspense. And I generally hadn't liked that genre, but I liked hers. And then I just started to find other authors, and Misu Andrews, I found her first. A girl in our ACFW group got a book to read, and it was the book about Job. And she didn't want to read it. She goes, oh, I don't like biblical fiction. Would you like to read it? And I said, is that like The Robe? She said, yeah. So I read it, and I loved it. So, yeah.
Yeah. Such a powerful story, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's wonderful now how many good biblical fiction writers we know of. And I'm sure that there's still some that we haven't discovered yet, but on the Biblical Fiction Aficionados Facebook group, there's a whole clan of writers. Right. And then there's a whole clan of readers. And I love the fact that we were able to get the book club going over there. And those discussions are interesting.
Yes, Charity does a great job with that.
Yeah.
And it was so exciting for me finding YouTube, because I felt like when I read your books that you had the same kind of thing as me, that it wasn't whitewashed fiction. It was really, you're dealing with the hard stuff and actually acknowledging that the Bible is full of stories which are really, really hard to grapple with. And we can't just pretend they're not there. And Genesis 4 is one chapter that's just like, so it's so dark. We can't just pretend it's not there, but what can we learn from it? Because God is there, and it's the Bible for a reason. And you both do that so beautifully. So I was just so thrilled to discover your work and others through the Facebook group since then. So yeah, it's been great.
In your book too, you have such a strong voice that every time I read one of your books, I just feel like it's so original, it's so artistic. I really enjoy it. I think all three of us write very differently. Naomi too. I think my favorite of Naomi's is Shira's Legacy, right?
Okay. Yeah.
I just love that. And I loved all the detail about building. Oh, that there's a question I could ask here. Lamech's sons are noted for some pretty significant advancements in human technology. Tent dwellers, livestock, father of all who play harp and flute, forge tools out of bronze and irons. Tell us about researching these skills.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, Lamech, his wives and daughter are the only women apart from Eve mentioned in the first 10 chapters of Genesis, which is really interesting. And then his sons are all mentioned in relation to one of these advancements. And so there's this something about this family that started to just pique my interest. Like, what was it about this family? Why is the biblical author gone into so much detail about them when like nobody else is barely even mentioned. So yeah, I wanted to really get to grips with that. And but research is hard when you're writing before the flood.
Yeah.
Because
it's a little sketchy there.
It's a little bit. there isn't really any evidence that exists anymore.
Yeah. But that goes in line with God making man smart from the start, and whereas we have all these gifts and abilities, like why would it? I mean, someone's got to learn how to make a flute. Like, that is now your job.
So, and what's really interesting is that the scholarship differs a lot, because it looks at different areas of the world where different developments took place at different times. But before the flood, the world probably didn't look the same as what it looks now.
Sure.
If the flood caused the continent separating, whatever you believe, it didn't look the same. Right. And yet there's evidence scattered all over the world of different innovations happening at different times. So it's really interesting when you start looking into it and you look at what was going on in the Far East at the same time as what was going on in the Near East and other places. And so basically I was sort of concerned to look at the processes, what would be needed to make the first bit of bronze, for example. And how that might have been discovered. And so it was more of a thought experiment. So the benefit of being in England is that we do have lots of museums, we have lots of artifacts. So I can go and I can see some pretty old stuff. I can't handle it because they won't let you, but I can see it. And
over there touching all the forbidden stuff.
but most of it is AD. Very little of it is BC, and definitely none of it is BF, before flood. It's but you can still see like ancient things because things took a long time to develop. So yeah, and what's really interesting about bronze in particular is that we think of bronze as being a very specific joining of copper and tin, but actually in the very old examples are full of arsenic. And yeah, but they were probably quite poisonous, which I guess is
we use them for platters, right?
So it's looking at different ores, and actually the ores that have the right metals in also have the arsenic in, and if they were kind of crushed together and smoldered together, and if it got hot enough, then they could produce bronze quite naturally without it being an actual really specific quantity and convolute process. So it was really interesting when I started looking at, I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination, but just thinking of actually how things could have been discovered almost by accident, but also a little bit by experiment, because things would have gone wrong so many times before. But I just imagine them, needing to produce tools. So they're all using stone tools, and stone tools were around for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and people still use stone tools and they're very effective. But it's obviously quite time consuming to make them. And so just think about how actually they would have been hunting for metals, and so we have like parties of metal hunters going out, and how that might have caused conflict because different metals were coming from different regions. And so it just all kind of came together in my head to be a really interesting story, which maybe everyone else finds boring, but it was exciting for me.
Were there certain parts of the research, whether it was from the Bible or whether it was, from other influences, that kind of worked on you during your writing?
The research.
Or the Bible research.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the biblical narrative, one of the things which I found amazing was that when I was considering writing this story, the Bible Project, who I know lots of people have probably heard of, they were doing a series called The City. It was a podcast series called The City, and they were talking about the first cities in the biblical narrative and what the significance of the city is through the whole biblical narrative. And so there was this big discussion about Lamech. And it was really interesting that I was listening to that on podcast while I was walking my dog. So I tend to do at the same time as I was considering this, and that really informed the way I thought about the city in the writing. And so Lamech's name, one of the things I learned through that is actually an amalgamation of the word Melech, which means king. And so that contributes to his character as he's like trying to be like a king. He's trying to dominate, and how the city, we can see it today. Things in cities, everything's concentrated. So things can either can progress really well really quickly, or they can progress really badly really quickly. And they were having this discussion on the podcast about how cities kind of magnify everything. And so that was really interesting, and that really kind of challenged me to think. I mean, I'm a country girl, so I quite like just hiding away from people and hanging out with the goats. But, but you know, I know that most people in the world live in cities, so it was really important to engage with this and actually to think, oh yeah, you can see how actually if they were building cities and there was lots of progress, how things can be really positive, like musicians making the first bone flutes. So because bones are hollow, and you just put little holes in them and you can make flutes. And so really amazing things like that, but also on the flip side, negative developments happening as things get out of control. So yeah.
I love that.
I don't know if that answered the question.
It's really interesting. It really is.
Yeah.
I bet, though, everybody here, we're all a bunch of information nerds. So, yeah, I can see that.
I love that. So what are you working on now that Wanderer's Legacy is out?
Oh, I have a series that is not biblical fiction.
Okay.
But it is, the reason why I started writing it is because I was aware that Noah was the next step in my journey, potentially. And yet I felt that I'd gone to the edge of the darkness with the Wanderer's Legacy, if I can put it that way. And I didn't know how I could engage with the Noah story. I thought I would find that really tough spiritually to engage with that level of darkness. And so I actually decided to put the themes of the Noah story into a different series. And so I've actually gone down a kind of allegorical fantasy route with this one. And the other reason I've done that is because I'm aiming it at teens, because I have teenage boys and there is not much for them to read. Not much wholesome stuff that can help them. And I really feel strongly that we need to be equipping our young people to engage with the challenges that teenagers have, and have good books to read, because you know, like say, it's my passion is communicating truth, and the teenage years are so hard and there's so many temptations, and there's no point in avoiding that and pretending it doesn't exist. But actually, can we write wholesome material into that and be equipping them to walk with Jesus through those years, and to as they face those temptations, to know how to battle them in the spirit, how to put on the full armor of God. So yeah, so it's going to be something quite different, but I actually started writing it a couple of years ago, and I benched it because the Wanderer's Legacy took over. Because Adah's story just kind of knocked on the door of my mind and wouldn't leave me alone. And my son, my 13-year-old, is very cross with me because he really, really wants me to carry on writing the series that's for him. And so I have promised him that I will carry on with it. But I'm a little bit sad that it's not biblical fiction, because I want to keep chatting with all of you guys. But it's the same kind of process, the same meaning behind it, but just
the themes, the Christian themes. And yeah, I understand. And I mean, I think there's many of us who love C.S. Lewis and Tolkien, and you know, so I think those related genres are also pretty fun.
Yeah, that's interesting because you, Demi Griffin, Elizabeth Jacobson, who we just had on, and Donna Elaine, like, if we're not writing biblical fiction, it seems like we're going to the allegorical and the fantasy, which gives you a little bit more freedom to apply those truths, I guess. But that's really cool that it seems like it's a trend, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still a remnant story. So I think of Noah as being a remnant story where, God pulls a remnant out, and it's still a remnant story, but written in a different world. But yeah, I do have several novellas that are in my head that are Wanderers, because Wanderer's Legacy has so many great characters in it, and they all have stories, and some of them haven't been told. Like I had to cut bits out. It was longer, and so and I went to my beta readers and I was like, you need to help me cut stuff out because this book is too long. And it was really, really hard to cut things. So there's a few little kind of backstories that got cut, which I'm like, oh, they need a novella and they need a novella. So I think that for fun, I will probably keep writing. So you might see that there is already one Wanderer's Legacy spin-off novella called Between the Rivers, which is already out. But I think that there may well be 3 more potentially if I get time to write them.
That's the thing, the time. Yeah. I think about, and I was telling Naomi earlier, I'm working on a New Testament story about Anna the prophetess in the 1st century temple. So I'm really excited with that. I'm about halfway through, actually. And then I also got interested in maybe writing something for middle graders. And at first I was thinking biblical fiction. I'm still thinking about that. But then I started to think about, I really like the idea of some of the westward expansion stories, whether for middle graders or adults, but maybe because I live in Arizona. But right now I still want to stick to biblical fiction. Yeah.
What I love about biblical fiction is that you actually are reading the Bible the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
You're just immersing yourself in scripture, aren't you? I mean, I'm sure that you guys do as well. You just read that section of the scripture hundreds of times and just immersing yourself in it. And it's such a beautiful way to spend your time. It's so nice. I just love the way that it feels like I'm just spending time in God's word and chatting to him about it. It's really, really precious. And I do miss that when I write other stuff.
Yeah.
Well, Kathy says Anna sounds great, and it will be something new. We will anxiously await that one. I think the best way, if you want to keep up with Natasha about her biblical fiction novellas or this allegorical fantasy, be sure to sign up for her newsletter. That's really the best way. Social media is kind of sketchy with, yes, you can see today or not tomorrow, that sort of thing. So the newsletter is usually the best way on keeping in touch with your favorite authors. So be sure you're following Natasha and interacting with her so you can find out all those wonderful stories coming up.
And do you have a free book or something, Natasha, that you give to newsletter subscribers?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I have a free book called The Wanderer's Sister, and if you've read The Wanderer Reborn, you'll have come across Abigail, which is Cain Abel Arwan's sister, and it's a little story of hers, and it's a little novella, and it's about when she finds out that her husband has been unfaithful, and it's her emotional journey through that, and to restore her trust in God through that difficult circumstance. So it's a beautiful little story. So yes, you do get that free if you sign up. So it's just natashawoodcraft.com and then /subscribe. So
great.
It's easy to find.
And Demi also wants to point out that you also get goat updates the newsletter. So
that's certainly wonderful.
All right, let's move into our game. This is actually more of a conversation, get to know you, than a full-on game, I guess. So what we're going to do is I'm posting up here I'm posting up here all the 3 different sections of questions. I want you to pick one. These were also, I posted them on BFA. So if it's easier to get that and then cut and paste which question you want to answer, we'll give ourselves 2 minutes to select an answer. Here comes the next one. 2 minutes to select the question and type out the answer in the chat. And then we'll just kind of do a little show and tell for that, just to get to know each other a little bit more. So this one has, what is most interesting fact you know? Should you do things that scare you? Which law is your peer group most likely to break? If you could create a new word, what would it be and what would it mean? And what do you love most about the place you live? Item on your bucket list. An alien lands on Earth. How do you entertain them? And what was your most embarrassing hairstyle? And then the first round again. Do you believe in any conspiracy theories? A simple moment in life you enjoy most or least? And what goal have you given up trying to achieve? What's your favorite way to pass the time? So I've got those. Again, those are over on Biblical Fiction Aficionados in one of my posts about Natasha's live. If you wanted to scoot over there, you can or scoot down. You're probably watching from the BFA. Scoot down and then you can just cut and paste. That might save you a little bit of time. And then just type in your answer for that as well. Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us, Demi. Make sure to pop on for the last bit. I'm sure Natasha will talk about goats some more. Have a great rest of your day at work. Thank you for joining us. If you're tuning in for the live, for the replay, be sure that you're commenting. Each comment will be an entry for a copy of the Wanderer's Legacy. This technically is a standalone, but I think it'd be much richer if you've read The Wanderer and The Wanderer Scorned and Reborn first. But in my opinion, for what that's worth. So, all right. Is there any questions right off about what we're doing with this cards and conversation? There's hi, Rebecca. There always is a conspiracy. Rebecca cannot join us on time. I think that there's something to that. Hey, better late than never. But yeah, it's been a great chat. So I know you'll love hearing Natasha's heart. Yeah, Rebecca cannot join us on time. I think that there's something to that. Hey, better late than never. But yeah, it's like I know you'll love hearing. I'm sorry. I like go. Maybe I better close out of the other one altogether. That's funny. I'm like, wait, what am I hearing? Sorry, there's a conspiracy with technology, and I'm full in support of that one.
I think it was my fault. I went on Facebook to
was that you?
Try and comment, and I think it started playing the video. So sorry.
That's what it was. I'm like, oh no, what did I do? That's funny. So funny. Okay, so if there's not any questions about this, then go ahead and select which question you would like to answer and put in that question, or you can abbreviate it somehow if you need to, and then your answer, and then we'll get does 2 minutes sound good for that, Dana?
Yeah, 2 or 3 or whatever you have time for. Two should do it. Just write real quick.
Yeah, 2 should do it. And then Lisa's already done. Girl, you are fast. All right, so we better get started because Lisa's already done. All right, so go ahead and select your which one you want. If you can be as serious or as silly as you like with this. So all right, bye, Lisa. We will definitely read your thing later to share with everyone. But thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate you.
Are we meant to post when we finish typing?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna do it too early. I don't know if it'll work.
No, you have to post, but then I have to like shove it onto the screen. So you can do it whenever you want. Oh, boy. All right, I'm gonna go. You can go ahead if you're still working on this. I'm just gonna start showing some of these. So if you're still working on it, feel free to complete that, and then we'll start talking about some of these. Lisa, who just left for making dinner, her favorite pastime is reading. Shocker. We're glad you like to read. Favorite way to pass the time is reading. Number 2, she loves all of our parks and zoos. That one might be interesting fact. Favorite way to pass the time. I'm not sure on that one. One item on my bucket list is traveling through Pompeii, Rome, and Ephesus. Ooh, that sounds awesome.
I posted mine on the private chat.
Oh, good. I'm glad you told me that. I'm going to add that over there. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. So let's see here. So, yeah, I like that. Have you, I wonder, Lisa, have you read, I think it's Tracy Higley, where she has like a Pompeii, and I've never actually read one of her books, but she always has such great looking books that talk about Pompeii and Rome and stuff. So that would be pretty cool. All right, let me add that one. All right, so then we have, next up is Natasha. Went with the alien. All right, an alien lands on Earth. How do you entertain them? They would probably land in my field with my goats. So I think my first encounter, oh, it already says goats, would be the goats. It would be pretty fun to see their reaction. Would they think the goat's more strange or me? I'd probably keep them outside because inside's too messy. Build a bonfire and toast marshmallows. Or is a fire too risky with aliens around? That's pretty deep. I don't know. I don't know what to say on that one. What do you think, Dana? Fire's too risky with aliens?
I loved it, and I think it might be because you never know what their reaction would be. Maybe they live on an ice planet, you know?
That's true. I guess it depends on the nationality of these aliens. All right, my conspiracy is when you are doing a major choir performance at church on Easter, that all the people come, your tech will mess up. It will. Which really stinks if you're the one running the tech booth, but
yeah.
And then here's Dana. If an alien landed on my front porch, I would entertain him and her by taking them to the Grand Canyon to show one of the great wonders in Arizona, then take them to church to let them see believers learn, listen, pray, and sing. Then I would take them to Manuel's, a Mexican food restaurant we enjoy for food fellowship and chips and salsa, and suggest they order the Pollo Especial. I love it. These aliens will be well cultured in Arizona. Arizona culture there. I love it. That's awesome.
I think it's funny that Natasha and I both chose that question.
You're both going for aliens.
We're both either that or we're both weirdos.
Yeah. Does it have to be either or I mean, could it be both? Yeah, I wouldn't have, without Rebecca's conspiracy, I would have had to take a long more time on deciding on that one. But her actual one that she posts is the thing she likes most about Oregon, where she lives, is its incredible beauty. Yeah, I bet that would be fantastic to wake up to every morning. That's about what the place you love.
Rebecca? Sorry. Describe it a little bit, Rebecca. Is it all green? Is it wet? Is it like a rainforest? Or what's beautiful about it?
Yeah. Show, don't tell. That's what my editor always tells me.
Yeah. I think we've all had that one.
That's funny. If you're joining us for the replay, be sure and comment with your comments and questions, conversations and questions, cards and conversation. That's what it is. And we'd be happy to interact with that and then just to get to know you a little bit more, because we certainly couldn't do this without you interacting. So we really appreciate all of you who are tuning in for the live or also for the replay as well. So, all right. Well, I will definitely pop on Rebecca's answer when she gets here, but I think we're ready for the read aloud.
Oh, hooray.
Okay. So, I've done
the book first.
Show you the book.
This is the book.
Cover is really nice.
Thank you. I'm really fussy. So it went through about 5 different revisions before I was happy. But, yeah, it was quite challenging because we had like Wanderer 3 on here, but because it's standalone, I decided to take it off. So I said to the cover designer, could we take it off, because I didn't want anyone to feel like they couldn't read this without reading the first one. So yeah. Wanderer Scorned is quite different. So it's an acquired taste. This one's probably an acquired taste too, but
it goes back to the darkness and on the edge of the darkness and not being a fluffy. All right, so Rebecca says, I'm sorry to interrupt. Right now, there are so many different flowers blooming. Not much rain this year, so we have trees in bloom. We're close to the ocean and Mount Hood and the Columbia Gorge.
Oh, wow.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, it does.
Thank you for sharing. All right, go ahead. Proceed.
Okay, so I thought, because I've read a couple of chapters already, I think, on the Biblical Fiction Takeover weekend. So I thought I would jump ahead into chapter 5 and read chapter 5. So what's going on, to give you a bit of background, is that Adah has met Lamech and they're courting, and he's invited her over to Shabbat for dinner. And so she's gone into his house and started to meet his family, but his dad is conspicuously absent, Methusael. So that's where we are, and then I'm going to jump in. Okay. So soon a commotion from behind caught Adah's attention. She turned to witness a man entering the hall. He looked like Lamech, though she could tell he had a smaller stature beneath his grotesque animal skins. Noah rose to greet him, and they kissed in front of everyone. Adah's face grew hot at the display. This must be Methusael. After pulling back from his wife, Methusael scanned the room, fixing each of his guests with a stare. When he reached Adah, his eyes narrowed, flickered to her Abba, and back to her. Then they burrowed deep inside her like a worm getting to the thick of the soil. She feared his scrutiny would reach the center of her soul. Noah stole her husband's attention away. My dear, you're late. Come sit and eat. They reclined together, and Adah caught whispered rebukes about working and Shabbat. She paid them little heed, for she felt sure Methusael had left a gaping hole in her for everyone to see. Adah remained conscious of Methusael throughout the next course, though each time he looked her way, his persistent wife reclaimed his notice with an anecdote. She longed for the reassuring touch of Lamech's hand, but he hadn't returned. He was hovering, trying to approach his father, but Methusael had turned away. Lamech's younger brothers snickered. Then Dinah, his sister, raised a delicate hand, beckoning her. Should she rise? As she shuffled in indecision, Abba's firm hand, warmed her arm. Stay with me, he murmured. Adah hadn't realized he was paying attention, but Hanok and Lamech's grandfather had both moved on, and they were alone. She glanced at Dinah with an apology. Dinah shot a derogatory look back before joining her brother's sneers. "They all hate me," Adah whispered. Adah shook his head, rejecting the notion with no proof otherwise, for what had been awkward before was unbearably tense since Methuselah had entered. As the servants cleared the tables, Adah looked around for Lamech. "Where is he? I need him." Her feet itched to flee. She was on the verge when the servants brought fruit and yogurt. This time Adah ate her fill, glad for the distraction. Just as she was devouring the last sweet mouthful, an upheaval broke out. She glanced to her right. Methuselah was no longer with Noah. He had risen and now pushed a serving girl out of the way in his haste. Heavy footsteps clomped behind her, then different footsteps, then the clash. "Abba," Lamech's voice spoke behind her, hushed but within earshot. "I have nothing to say to you. Move aside." "Abba, will you not greet them?" "Certainly not." "But everyone is watching." Lamech's tone changed as he pleaded. "Precisely." More shuffling. "You must acknowledge her. She is our guest. Ima has welcomed her." Methuselah's breaths came loud and heavy. "Why would I welcome someone I expressly forbade you from entertaining? I am the head of this household, not your Ima, yet you insist on disobeying me, in front of the elders, no less." Methuselah had forbade her entry? "Please, Abba, come and speak with her. I'm sure she will change your mind," Lamech quivered. Methuselah raised his voice. "I do not want my mind changed." Heads turned, lips sneered, and more narrowed eyes shot Adah's way. She stared at the table, trying to resist the urge to crawl beneath it. Might those eyes focus on the argument behind her, without knowing she was the subject? Abba tried to distract her with some conversation, but she could not hear him. Methuselah's voice dominated all others. "Why would you consider marrying a woman whose mother bore no sons and who died before she reached 100 years? What if the daughters bear the same curse?" Methuselah's words hit Adah in the chest. Lamech swore and drove his fist into the wall. She cowered, squeezing her eyes tight. Why did he have to make a scene? Lamech approached. She could feel the heat from his body, but she did not turn. He spoke her name. "Don't draw more attention. Just let me disappear." Adah came to her rescue. My dear, I fancy another look at that garden. What do you say?" Adah nodded and grasped her Abba's offered hand. He pulled her from the room and Lamech trailed behind them. "Please don't listen to him, Adah," said the voice at her shoulder. She said nothing. When they were safely in the garden, her Abba turned to face Lamech, tucking her behind him. "What was the meaning of putting my girl through that humiliation? Never in my life have I experienced such disrespect." I was trying to get him to acknowledge, "I know what you were trying to do, boy, but to bring my daughter here, to parade her around without your father's permission." Adah stifled a cry. "See what you've done," Abba said, taking her in his arms. Lamech reached forward. "Adah, forgive me. I thought if he saw you, he would change his mind. Adah, please." Her Abba blocked his way. "You will not touch her again. Not until you put this right." "Of course, Shemiel, of course." Lamech paced across the garden, rubbing his fist in his hand. "I will. I promise." Adah leaned forwards. What if he's right, Abba? What if Methuselah's right?" The thought of everyone judging her for her mother's failure was more awful than Methuselah's stare. Lamech strode to her side. "He is not right. He is a fool." Her eyes widened. "You would speak that way of your own father." "Only because it's true. Any man who doesn't love you is a fool." "Enough." Tenderly holding her shoulders, Abba guided her towards the gate. "I am disappointed in you, Lamech. I hoped I'd finally found someone worthy of my daughter. It seems I was mistaken." "Please, Shemiel, please, give me a chance. Time to win him around. Allow me to make it up to you." They paused at the exit, and her Abba looked back. His chest heaved. "That is up to my daughter. Adah?" Adah pulled her eyes from the ground to study Lamech. He was altered from the confident man she had seen earlier. He no longer looked so secure, but shifted on his toes, his expression pleading. She realized how little she knew him, or knew about him. Her parents had married for love, and now Abba was blessing her with a choice. a choice that women like Dinah never received. Wisdom dictated that she should turn away and not get involved with Methushael's family, but wisdom was not on Adah's side, for the heart can be treacherous and demanding. Though her Abba gave her freedom, her heart did not. As she searched the depths of Lamech's earnest expression, the longing for companionship and the addictive reaction of her body to his let him in. Adah, will you give me another chance? Lamech took one step forward. He restrained his hand from reaching out, but Adah felt it anyway. She felt it stretch and grasp the heart beating furiously in her chest. Lamech possessed her desire. There was no use fighting it. She was his. Adah nodded. Yet, all the walk home, she felt like a shattered piece of pottery. She couldn't allow herself to dream of the future they might have, as she had done the previous days. She mustn't consider the home Lamech might build her, nor what it might feel like to snuggle into the warmth of his strong embrace. Although Lamech owned her heart, Methushael would never give his approval. When she returned to their modest home, her mother's empty sickbed, still in place, for they'd not felt ready to move it yet, stared at her, cold and lifeless. Adah's old self would never have entertained the thought that Ima could betray her. Her new self did. For Ima had left her alone when she needed her the most, when she needed her to disclose what it was like to fall in love and how she should behave with a man. And Ima's premature death, with its associated gossip, may have ruined Adah's chance at happiness.
Yeah, where's the Kleenex? Here.
Oh, she's frozen.
Well done. Well done.
Yeah, very emotional. Devastation. Poor girl.
Yeah. She's just a young girl, and her story is she goes through so much.
Yeah, she really does.
She develops a lot, and I hope that my hope is just that anyone who goes through any of the things that she goes through is able to find hope in this story, and to know that God doesn't leave them alone and that He has a way for them. That's
right.
Right.
Awesome. Well, if you've tuned in, thank you so much for joining us. The comments will be open through the weekend. Be sure that you're interacting. The more you interact, the more you have chances to be entered into that draw for the Wanderer's Legacy. You don't want to miss this. It's fantastic. And thank you, Natasha, for joining us here today. And we really appreciate you taking the time out and sharing about your beautiful story and your beautiful life.
Oh, thank you. And now I really appreciate it. It's been lovely to chat with you all. And I just hope that some people enjoy the story, and that it speaks to them the way that it spoke to me when I was writing it, which was a lot.
Yeah.
There's lots of challenges in it. So
yeah, for sure. So be sure that you're following along with Natasha. Go on to natashawoodcraft.com and then subscribe to her newsletter. That really is the best way for you to be up in the know. Is that a thing? In the know for all of her upcoming news and stuff. Unless we're in person, because that would be even better. But social medias are kind of sketchy on that, and they don't always show you everything. So this really is the best way if you want to know about what your favorite authors are doing. And thank you all for showing up today. We're so thankful for this community of avid readers of biblical fictions, and we're so grateful for all of you, and so grateful for this community that we've made together, and excited to see the new books coming up. Excited to hear about Natasha's fantasy coming up, and fantasy fiction and all that. So thank you for joining us. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. And then I know we'll be hopping on to interact with you throughout the week, but be sure that you are putting information in there, and as you're watching the replay, so you can be entered in to win the Wanderer's Legacy. So until next time, We really appreciate you all, and we will see you around online.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.